Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. Housekeeping, sign up for the Patreon, even if you want to go for free. We have our monthly class where everybody gets to come and work on your readings with kind strangers. And then I have several levels if you want the energy read of the week. If you want to learn tarot with me, every Thursday there's a little 10-minute class, a nice, easy way, digestible way to learn, all that stuff. And check out my calendar, added new dates. I'm coming to Utah, Vegas, West Coast, second half of the year. I'll see you first half, a lot of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. All right. So today my guest is Kristen Tinsley, and she is also a comedian and a medium and a psychic and all those things put together, and just a nice person. How's that sound? Is that a good intro?
I would say that's an excellent intro.
Well, it's good to have you on, my dear. And I want to jump right off. We're gonna start with a little background. Now, people always ask me what came first, comedy or tarot, and I'm always kind of like, they kind of came together. So I want to ask you, tell me how your mediumship started. Was it from a family line? Did you just work on it? How did you know you were a medium?
So I actually knew that I was a medium when I watched the movie Poltergeist, and I saw Tangina, and I also watched like how Carol Ann was experiencing some things. But I didn't get sucked into the TV. I got sucked into the refrigerator. So my spirit guides would communicate with me at night.
Okay, wait. We hang on one second, because your phone clicked out on you got sucked into the what?
Okay, sucked into the refrigerator.
Okay. Go ahead, continue. Tell us what that means.
So my spirit guides would communicate with me at night. They would kind of, I think that they used food to try to get me up to like, maybe to like get me out of bed, and, because I kind of always felt their presence there. Mm-hmm. But the communication, like as far as like them asking me questions or, trying to show me things, I think that they just kind of wanted to maybe start the conversation, but it just didn't go there. I was too busy distracted eating, whatever they were. But it gave me a lot of energy, and I think it just kind of allowed me to feel the presence. And then when I would see stuff like, Poltergeist or, other types of movies like that dealt with mediumship, then I just kind of understood what was happening.
It's not a thing in your family. It's not in your lineage.
Well, it probably is with probably other ancestors, but people in my immediate family, like my sister has it, but she doesn't use it. My younger brothers do have a little bit of it. My mother grew up in a haunted house, so she experienced a lot of presences in her house her whole life. So my mother is like a master of like channeling, automatic writing. My mother, used to use tarot cards back in the day, but it was never anything like where you would go for training or anything like that. So my understanding of it came from just, little bits and pieces as to, what was happening to me, but didn't actually develop until much later on in my life.
But there was a supportive, at least there was a supportive. There wasn't like that Christian, like, this is all the devil's work.
Absolutely not. No. I mean, my mother, she did raise us in a very strict Catholic household, at least for, I don't know, maybe the first 2 seconds of my life. It's never told to me that, this is evil or this is bad or that you shouldn't do this. I spent more than half of my life praying to God every night, praying, asking, God questions and receiving answers somehow. So I kind of always just knew that. But, when there's no definition to it, there's no Google, there's no words to it. It was hard to put the pieces together, but I was never told no. I kept it a secret. I didn't really, tell too many people about that. I just didn't.
Yeah, and it's hit a place now where I mean, I hate to say it's popular because it is, and it'll tone down a little bit, but at least it has taken the secrecy out of it, and I think more people, it makes them feel special, which I'm not sure that that's the, you know what I mean? We all want to be equal.
Well, yeah. Well, now I see it where I see a lot more where people will say anyone can be a medium.
Yeah,
and there is a truth to that, but it also there's a difference between being a medium. I think the wording kind of has to change a little bit. We are all spiritual beings having a human experience, and we do have that connection to source, and we do have that connection to our loved ones on the other side if we choose to use it that way. What makes us different is that we are channeling not just our spirit guides, but the spirit guides of the people that we read for, but also higher source energy, depending on the question that you ask. And not everybody has access, and that's where the lineage comes in. Not everybody has access to certain guides that can give them the answers that they need. It just depends on how far you want to take it.
But somebody that say didn't have the access but chose to could work on it and get it, correct?
I believe so. I didn't go that route. I didn't take classes. I think I took maybe a couple of classes just so I could understand the terminology behind what people were talking about, like clairsentience, clairaudience. I didn't know what that was. Mm-hmm. I knew about channeling from like a very old book that my mother had that she found in a library somewhere. I think that she started to pay attention to that stuff because she knew what I had because of some things that I would say to her, or just some things that I knew. So I think she just kind of put those things around so I would pick it up. But yeah, it was. I mean, I think that people can train to do that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not inside that body. I've always just been me, you know. So I don't know. Be like on the other side for somebody who spent their whole life not having that connection and not seeing the things that I've seen and getting the messages that I've gotten, and then all of a sudden just start to receive them. I don't know what that would be like.
As someone who goes into a lot of like mediumship circles and stuff like that, I think the one thing that is the difference is that a lot of people, and not me, but a lot of people have been brought up in a house that was taught that this was all bad and all wrong. So there's a wall there that needs to be taken down.
Absolutely.
And it's built in. Like, I'm amazed. I was brought up very light religious, not like really rulesy, but I will tell you the stuff that sticks, that even it just is, I feel very lucky to not have lived through that. You know, were you brought up Catholic or just kind of spiritual?
I was brought up Catholic, but my mother's side of the family is Jewish. So there is, and then my father, my birth father is Baptist. So there is a lot of different religions mixed in there, although we were raised Catholic. Like I went to Catholic school for a short period of my life. But as soon as I could talk. I mean, my mother had a Bible in the house, and I would read it to the best of my abilities, or just even look at it, because I was just very drawn to it. So I was, and then, you know, I also have Native American heritage, and, you know, just having all of those combinations in there. Mm-hmm. We're told, you know, that you shouldn't speak to the dead, and you should go to the church and you should ask them for help. That is part of a structure that's part of the religious structure, where we shouldn't seek answers outside of ourselves. Yeah. We shouldn't ask for those things. But when you pray to God or you pray to angels, who do you think you're talking to? Who do you think we're talking to?
Yeah, it's a way of controlling people, controlling the masses.
Way of controlling people, where they think that you have to be in church and you're paying, you know, you pay your, you know, your dues or whatever you do, and then you're listening to someone read a story to you, Most people aren't paying attention, and they're not absorbing those words because it doesn't resonate with them. People have very different beliefs as they go through life just in general. But there's been so many people that have been turned away from the church. My mother turned away from the church when she divorced my father and wanted to get remarried, and they told her that my mother would have to give me and my sister up for adoption in order. Yes. She told me this recently. And I said to her, I said, Mom, I said, I never really asked you why we stopped going to church. Because my mother never really explained anything. She just did things. My mom is a Canadian devil. She just did things. She didn't explain why she was doing it. So I asked her, I said, Mom, I said, we used to go, because we used to fast Black Friday, sorry. Good.
We went to sales. We were first in line.
We got the Ash Wednesday. Like, we followed that to a T. And there was time when we would listen to, we would go out and we would work with our parents, and we were not allowed to speak, where we were just supposed to be listening to messages that we would hear on the radio from this church that would broadcast during the holy days. So I had asked her, I said, listen, I said, what happened? I said, because we used to go to church all the time. And she said, well, we stopped going to church because they told me that in order for my marriage to your stepfather to be recognized, I would have to give you girls up. And I said, what? I said, I never heard that. I said, that's crazy. And she said, yes, because that's why I went in and I, sought counsel from a priest, and he basically demonized my mother for getting a divorce from my father and wanting to get remarried. And I already, she already had 2 children. And he's like, your 2 children that you have from your previous marriage will never be recognized by the church.
This is a bizarre segue, but so Megyn Kelly used to be somewhat reasonable. Now she's completely insane. But when I saw her years ago, she was talking, this is how deep this programming goes. And I feel like there is a mass movement that we are not aware of right now. That will, if we get into conspiracies, I'll go there. But she is upset with the Catholic Church because they will not annul her first marriage, which it's like, why do you need an annulment, you idiot? You know what I mean? Like, you were married and then you were divorced, but she's so like, I have to get an annulment. And it made me question that's the kind of stuff where I think people lose their mind.
Right, because they really put so much stock in this. And, a lot of it is just, listen, we all come from a very loving energy. Entering into a spiritual union with another person, comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of reflections of oneself. That's really what it's for. To work on yourself, to get into God's good graces, to, face the issues that you have within yourself, because you're really becoming one, and you're coming together to create other life forces, another human being on this planet that's also going to take a spiritual path or whatever, they choose to do with their lives. So that's really what that is. But and no one's checking. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, you didn't get an annulment from the church. Like, nobody cares. But because she's in the public eye, she has to back herself up, because people will question and say, well, you were married before and your original marriage wasn't annulled. Like, who cares? But that's why we have, I'm an ordained minister. I can marry people. I can open up my own church. I could do a lot of things. But I feel like that's why we have that now. So we have that religious freedom where you can still have a religious ceremony without being, I'm going to use the word, demonized by the church. Yeah. I had to rip apart a priest, a quote unquote priest, not on a podcast. I just left it in the comments because this man just really angered me because he was talking about exorcisms. And he took a course, a 10-day course, to become an exorcism for the church. And what he really was some sort of like security guard. And the host said to him, well, what do you think about psychics and mediums? And of course, he went back to the way back. He said, oh, psychic and medium, they're horrible people. That, they used to go door to door and knock on people's doors of widows that had lost their husbands in the war and said that they could get messages from their husbands for a fee. And, and then he was just talking about all these exorcisms. And I said, you know what, brother? If you want to take it back that far, let's take a look at mental illness, the history of mental illness, that a lot of people that you quote unquote thought needed exorcisms were actually suffering from mental illness.
And as someone that works in the paranormal field, exorcism, there's if you want to take an exorcism class, there's one I would suggest, and it is 18 years long.
Right. This guy took a 10-day course,
yes,
and he's beating up grandma for having sundown syndrome.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing also. But I'm sure we're on the same page with that whole thing, that there's just angels and demons, and there's nothing in between, and it's insane.
There's one in between. There really is a lot in between. People ask me all the time, even with mediums, the history of mediums, like I get that there is a history of, it being a show and table shaking and this and that. But imagine, and I understand this, but imagine being someone who's receiving these messages. Just the same way as Jesus Christ, who was a man, received these messages, these downloads to help people, like eat this, eat that, I can help you to cure this, because he was getting the information from a higher source power, and it was being translated, and people didn't understand that. The same way as other mediums who were going around saying, hey, I have a message from your Uncle Tom. Your Uncle Tom wants me to let you know A, B, C, D, and E. And people look at me like, well, my Uncle Tom's been dead for 25 years. What are you talking about? They didn't have Google back then. They didn't have, Miss Charlotte's Academy of Mediumship. They didn't have that back then. So how is anybody supposed to articulate what they had, but automatically, oh, that's evil? Because if you're dead, you're evil. Yeah. Meanwhile, these are our loved ones. These are our ancestors on the other side that we're communicating with. How are you going to call them evil? How can you call these messages evil when someone is on the brink of losing their minds or their job or their family or want to give up on your life, and you're giving them messages that breathes life back into them because they're open to it. They're listening to them. You're healing them. You're helping them. How is that evil?
And also the people that you're telling they are evil because they're hearing that when it's happening, occurring naturally.
Thank you. Naturally, because everybody has this gift. Everybody has a way. Some people say, oh, I was just wandering in the woods and all of a sudden I just got this message to make a left, and instead of making a right, and by making a left, it saved my life. And it was a miracle. No, it's just that's helping you, to guide you, because it's not your time yet and you're supposed to be saved.
You know why I like that? It was something I was thinking about today. When something intense happens and someone is like, God is with me, I feel like my faith in God or spirit or whatever you want to say is unwavered. It's not a particular situation. That doesn't mean that the kid across the street that got hit by a car, God wasn't with them. I just feel like there's this big, God. I know angels may have been there to exactly what you're saying, to give you the message to go left instead of right. But I feel like that doesn't make my faith stronger. It just keeps my faith as it should be. Does that make any sense, what I'm saying?
Right. Because you have to, tapping into spirituality and your spirit guides is not something that you just do on occasion, or you notice that they're there when they save you behind from something.
Right.
I created a journal called Messages from Spirit, a psychic medium's journal, because we don't have anything for us. This is for these new, younger mediums that don't realize that spirit gives you messages and information and signs and symbols and synchronicities every single day. Every reading that I've done, I've always gotten names, situations, just certain conversations that I'll have with people that resonate for somebody that I'm reading for. And I document all of this so that understand how spirit communicates with me. And then I realized, well, you're missing a bigger amount of people, because people who, let's say, someone lost their husband and they get a sign from their husband and they book a reading with me and they get confirmation, or I'll throw back to them and I'll say, okay, your husband is sending you the symbol of a baseball. So just let it go. Let me know when you see that baseball or the word baseball. Sure enough, they'll always call me and say, I was watching a commercial and this kid literally threw a baseball to his father. It was an ad or something like that. And I said, okay, what was the message after that? And you train people how to document this so they know that it's real. People need to see that proof, and they come to mediums to see that proof. But since we all have that gift, you can start to document and get that proof yourself.
Okay, I'm going to take a break and we're going to come right back and talk about this, because I love this. The idea of keeping all this, it also builds confidence. And okay, so folks, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, after the Lori Bell episode, a bunch of you guys reached out and said, Karen, where are you getting mushrooms legally online? So I reached out to the company and I said, hey, would you guys like an ad on my podcast? And they said, hey, would you like to be an affiliate? And that was the day I learned what an affiliate was. So I am now an affiliate for mycholine.com. Folks, these are the real deal. This is not on Instagram or places where you see, hey, there's some lion's mane and you might feel better and you might not. These are real mushrooms, and they come in a liquid concentrate form with 4 great flavors. Blue raspberry is my favorite. If you are microdose curious, this is a fabulous way to give it a shot. They come with wonderful instructions. 1 to 4 squirts is microdosing or just relaxing. 5 to 8 is a little more of that party feeling. If you're out partying with people and they're all drinking, that's kind of where you want to be. And 8 and above does its thing. I am perfectly happy with 5 or 6. I haven't gone to 8, but I've read the reviews and people are very, very happy. So you want to go to mycholine.com, MyColean, and you're going to use coupon code Karen71367. All one word, all capital letters, Karen71367 for a 10% discount. Go get some mushrooms, enjoy, and send me an email and let me know how you like it. Okay, tell us more about this, about your journal and your book. Tell me everything about it.
Okay, so I got a download about this. I had went to college for writing. I graduated from Hunter College, and I went for writing, and it was always one of my dreams to write a book. And I was just sitting on my couch and I said, I was looking at all the journals that I had all just random writings in. And I said, I need something that's a little bit more organized. But as I started to read, I started to notice that I was getting signs and symbols and conversations and names and all of this stuff very early in advance, before I would even read before someone would even call me. I would contacts. And this wasn't because people said, well, you need to shut yourself off. Like you can't be open all the time. I'm like, yeah, I can't shut myself off to my divine energy. I can't do that. And
also when that happens, when I do tarot, I don't feel like it's very subtle. It's not the same as getting, I don't know. It's different. Is that, you know what I mean? It's not, you're not in this. Yeah.
Very different. So for younger mediums, I wanted them to, it's almost like a client intake. And this isn't something that you would go back and look at if the client were to book another appointment with you again, because the energy changes over time and the messages also change. So if I'm reading for somebody in June, if I'm reading for Carol in June, and then she comes back to me in October, I'm not going to go back in my journal and say, oh, okay, well, she had this problem or this person came through and immediately go for that. That's not, it doesn't feel right. That's not what this is for. This is not a cheat sheet. So you would write down the name of the person, the location of where you were when you did the reading, the names of the spirits that came through, and the messages and signs and symbols that they showed you. I am a medium I started with tarot. I have a lot of tarot cards. There's a library of tarot cards in here. You write down the cards because that's energy too. So you document what cards you got, which deck you used, which oracle cards. So you know what works with you the best. Because listen, the messages from spirit, the dead don't actually talk to you. I don't even like to say the dead, but it sounds cool. They don't talk to you, but they can talk to you through your oracle cards, or you're going to get, and I always let people choose what page number they want, because it's their spirit team giving them the messages. So I want to make sure that the message gets to them very clear, and an oracle deck is a great way to do it. So you got to write that down. You got to document it. Also, mediums need self-care. They need to know what works. After you did a reading, how did you feel? Write those feelings down. What did you see? What did you smell? What did you taste? You're documenting your entire experience. And this would be a tool that you would use before you do your meditation, before you do your reading. What are you getting? What are you seeing? Because when you're in a reading with someone, it's not like they're going to bring this information back. They're giving it to you and that's proof that we're always on. We're always ready. Not just when the client books an appointment and pays the bill. No. Mm-hmm. It's before that. And the spirits, they know that they're coming. They know that this person's going to call you and make an appointment. They know it already. So they want information. No, I mean, that, and crystals, scents and stuff like that, because certain scents will bother, if it bothers you, but certain scents, I have to have Palo Santo burning when I do a reading. I have to the crystals that I use to help to ground me or activate my third eye. I have a certain prayer that I write, very detailed and specific, of how I speak to my spirit team and what I'm asking the souls that are going to be coming through to communicate me what information I want from them.
I love that, just also for the fact that that is an on-off switch. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. Yeah. When you were talking also about the journal, something I love, which I used to tell people to write down, like anything that is psychic, like I knew the light was going to turn green, to have then look back and go, look at all the things I got right. Like it's a confidence builder,
It's confidence, because mediumship can be shaky. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced that they put me in stand-up comedy first, so that I would get used to being on stage. I would get used to drawing in on someone's energy. I would get used to that, and also because stand-up comedy was not. I watched it. Everybody grew up with Adam Sandler. I mean, that's what we did. But, in mediumship, you need that confidence. You need to release the fear of being wrong. And when I teach, because I do teach a messages from spirit class, you have the journal, but I also teach it also. When I teach people, I give them real world situations, like a demo reading where it's real, where you're going to get certain responses. You're going to be dealing with certain types of personalities. People may say to you, I mean, I've gone to a psychic party and people are like, oh no, I'm not getting a reading because that goes against my religion. I'm a Christian. So therefore, and how to navigate that, how to not have that knock your confidence, mm-hmm. or you to come out of your character and have to put this person in their place because they're disrespecting you, because they think that their religious beliefs trump what you're doing because you're this evil person, and there's so many things to teach mediums about this, like what crystals might work for you, what scents might work for you, how to actually form your opening prayer so that it unlocks you in ways that you didn't know you could be unlocked, because it's you working with spirit, not someone teaching you,
Yeah.
And once you get tools, you could do it.
Yeah, I sit in on a mediumship circle with Dana Willie. It's just great, and it is interesting. I even feel more so than psychics. Well, maybe because I'm newer at mediumship, but I feel like with psychic stuff, I feel like the confidence is already there. I feel like it's in mediumship. I don't know how to say this.
Do you want me to tell you why? Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or let me see if I can get what I'm trying. There's even less feeling of confirmation, which is why you have to be more confident. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing. With mediumship, you don't have your tarot cards. The tarot cards, because someone will say to me, even when I do a reading, because I am Divine Femedian Tarot, right? That was my name when I started, Divine Femedian Tarot. So people will think, oh, tarot. Okay, they don't think of me as a medium, but I am a medium. So when I have my cards, people will say to me, well, ask the cards what they think, or what does the card say, or show me the card. Like, what does that mean? They're not taking, I'm repeating what I'm channeling from source, because we're not sitting here saying, oh, Knight of Swords, you got news coming in, or, the devil in reverse, meaning that, you're releasing negative toxic energy. We don't read like that. You're giving messages to people that are being channeled through you. It's just the card is keeping you grounded. The card is keeping you steady. It's giving you something to focus on. If you take those, it's like taking training wheels off a bike. You're going to be nervous at first. You might fall. You might not know how you're going to be able to ride the bike. But as soon as you take those cards away, you have to trust in yourself that you're delivering the message clearly and with action. You can ask for that of spirit to give it to you, because you already are a medium. You're a channeler of energy. But you have to push your consciousness aside to let them come through. You're on vacation, girl. You're off in the Bahamas somewhere having a drink. While spirit's doing the work, you're not even there, because you're not going to remember what you said. That's why it's important to document these things, because you're not. People call me, oh, remember you brought my brother Brian through, right? And I'm like, yeah, no. And you just smile and nod, and you're like, no, I don't remember, because it's not your consciousness that's coming through.
Right.
So once you
yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of reading that I say now, I say my readings now are 50% on the card, 50% off, but the cards allow me to go faster so people can get more information in.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. And I still use my tarot. I haven't in a while, but I still, like, if I'm going too long and the person's really asking a lot of questions about other people or stuff, and I find myself being pulled out of the spirit world to come back to Kristen, then I have my cards and my oracle cards, and that's fine. So for the first half hour of the reading with me, it is channeling, it is mediumship, and then the other half really could be, where I'm answering questions and I'm also using my tarot cards. But yes, tarot cards do help to get the message out faster. But just remember, it's not the cards that are giving you the answer. It's the channeled message.
Right. They're pieces of paper.
Keep focus. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not people. And some mediumship teachers will be like, oh, if you use tarot cards, those are evil. We don't do that. Like, we don't do that. And some people are like, well, I feel comfortable having the cards. Just like I feel comfortable writing things down or doing automatic writing. I was told by some people I shouldn't do that.
So do you differentiate between a mediumship reading and a psychic reading, or do you just sort of do both and see what happens?
No. Okay. So when I say I'm a medium, that means that I can see details and get information and messages that are very close. I can tell you the size shoe that your grandmother was wearing. I can tell you specific illnesses or tattoos or piercings that they had on their body. I can channel their personality, things that they would say, how they lived, how they died, the memories that they have of you, their favorite foods, all of that. That is a mediumship reading. I am contacting that person to come through. And then the messages that they're going to tell you come after that, because I got to give you the evidence first so that you know who's talking to you. A psychic reading would be more along the lines of, I see this coming for you in the future. I do see you meeting someone else, after a divorce. And I said, maybe I see you buying a new car, or I see you moving. Like, I'm predicting, because psychics predict. Where a medium receives, but a psychic perceives. So I'm perceiving your future for you. But spirit already does that. But they speak on more of a higher level, with the love coming in and the support and all of that stuff. And then I have to crack down to my psychic abilities to allow those earthly predictions to come through.
But do you use, when you're talking, say you're talking to my grandmother and telling me she's from Austria and blah, blah, blah. Do you use tarot cards in that?
No, not anymore. No. Okay. My grandmother is actually from Austria.
There you go.
From Austria. Yeah, they were Austrian Jews. Yes.
Well, hi, Grandma. That's yes. And I'm sorry, because I think I worded that question wrong. Because for a minute I was like, wow, I've never heard of a medium that uses tarot, but that's pretty cool.
I mean, a lot of us do. And, because it does help us to, to kind of, it helps us to give us, like, if you look at like some other mediums, like Tyler Henry, for example. I love him. He draws in his book. And there's another medium. Sometimes we kind of need something to keep that focus so that we're not shifting out of that and that consciousness, because it's a different level of consciousness. So if we have, people that are sitting in front of us and we're telling them the flow of the narrative, the story, just keep flow, 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 flow. And we give them a chance to validate later on. Just depends on the type of medium you are, because you're channeling, you're speaking. The spirit world is giving you a lot of information. And if that person doesn't resonate with anything you're saying, they're going to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are resonating and if you're giving them names and you're giving them very specific things, then they're going to be like, oh my God, that's my Mother Claire. That's my Mother Claire.
So, it's so funny. So in this mediumship circle that I just started taking, and you'll be able to, you probably help people with this all the time. So it's just, we do prep and stuff, meditation, all that stuff. And so it's just like saying, like, spirit comes closer. This is what I see. This is what I see. And it feels, crazy. Like, I have done psychic stuff where I see, and I get that. But when I start to describe a person, or this is a young person, I feel like that's very out on a limb. And all the other person can say is yes, no, or maybe. And sometimes the person is not allowed to speak at all. And it is such training to stay and just have faith.
Right. It's the but again, when you get out there in the real world and you start to do mediumship readings, you're in a controlled environment where people are willing to cooperate. If you're out there and you're doing a party of 100 people, and these all different types of people are coming up to you for a 10, 15-minute reading, they're not going to say yes, no, or maybe.
Yeah.
They may sit there and say no, 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 no. Then what do you do?
Or they will talk through the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I've had that happen. So my father died in this time, and he drove, and I'm like, who's the leader here? Like, but that's also there where they feel bad for you, where they want to help you, or they feel like they have to give you information. They feel like they just want to open up and they just want to tell you, like, they're doing the work for you. And at the end of the reading, you're kind of like, that's very rarely happened to me. And I always stop people and I say, let me be the medium. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you who's here. And then you also have people who they will demand that you get their mother or your father. Mm-hmm. You're giving evidence to them. Like, I literally was reading for this one woman, and I said the name Barbara, but maybe I didn't say it loud enough. And I started just giving her all this evidence and all of this stuff, and I'm telling her all this stuff, and I'm thinking, and she's not really responding, she's listening, absorbing, and I'm giving her all this advice and just all this stuff. And at the end of it, she looks at me and she says, so there wasn't any messages from my mother, Barbara? Yeah. And I'm like, who do you think was talking to you this whole time?
Yeah.
And I said the name Barbara right from the start. Oh, I didn't hear you. But she only wanted to speak to Barbara. That's it. She did not want to hear from anyone else. She only wanted to speak to Barbara.
Well, the other thing with that, I know there's a thing called psychic amnesia, and I've had it during a reading where I was like, I'm not sure, and then walked away and was like, I know exactly who you were talking about. But there's this other thing about psychics having to be perfect. So if you say January 3rd at 1 p.m. and they're like, you were wrong, it was 1:15 p.m. and you just want to strangle them, like,
oh my God. Yeah. We should have another private podcast with other mediums and psychics so we can talk. I talk about this in my comedy show, but I feel like the only people who are ever going to know what I'm talking about are other psychics. Cause it's like, I'll be like, did you have stuffed animals on your bed? Or did you this? Well, I had one stuffed animal on my bed, but I didn't have many. So I don't really know like who you're talking about. Like,
yeah, I it's funny too, because when I put up the clips of psychic stand-up, So that's going out into just everyone. So that's not people that believe in psychics, people that were at the show, people that want to have fun. So there's a lot of like insane criticism, which sometimes I answer and then sometimes I just block them. But like I said, and one of them I said, the third quarter of this year is going to be the year the economy really goes bad. And someone goes, it's already bad. And I was like, that... First of all, it's not bad. It's not bad yet. We're getting there. It's going to get bad. But it was like this ridiculous, I don't know how to put it, but there was one when the guy said his gas price is going down. And I said, how do you feel about walking? And someone wrote, she didn't answer the question. And I was like, oh my God. So if someone doesn't like you or doesn't believe in psychics, they're going to make sure you're wrong no matter how right you are.
Oh, absolutely. I just actually had that happen. I did a Zoom reading for a group of women, and this actually, I wouldn't say that it shook me, but it got me upset enough for me to reach out and actually like speak to someone else. Where this woman, and I brought through her father, even the number of the horse he used to bet on, and by name too. And I'm talking, it came out, but I could tell by the way she was looking at me that she wanted to challenge me. So I read everybody else like a book, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but but you know what I'm talking about. You know how when you read someone's that you're like, yeah, there's no way that you could, you know what I mean, that you could even say. Yeah. And I had already for the host like a year ago, so she knew what I had. So, and when I got to the privates, because I did a gallery reading for all of them, and then I did 15-minute private, she was the last one to go. Anything I said, nope, no, just nasty. And then ends, she thought that she disconnected from the Zoom because I said to her, okay, because I was going to read the oracle message and I threw some cards down too. And I let her know, I said, listen, there's some energy around you that feels very neglected, very hurt, very left out by you. I said, I don't know if this is you or someone else. I said, but somebody is feeling this way. No, there's nobody in my life that would ever feel that way about me. No. Right? And then I read the oracle message, and it was all about how you treat people. I picked the number. I just randomly picked a number. I said to her, pick a number between 1 and 49. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. This is what I was dealing with. And I was like, all right. But I was like, you know what? Don't let the Sagittarius out right now. Just relax. So after she left, she gets up and she goes back into the living room. And this was like midnight, by the way. And she thought that she disconnected the phone, and she walks into the kitchen and she says, I'm not going to curse because it's disrespectful.
And you can curse if you want.
Okay. She says, everyone was like, oh my God, how was it? How was it? And she was like, she effing hates me and I love it.
Oh, what a horrible person.
And then I knew she did that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I texted the host. I said, she didn't actually hang up. I said, I heard everything that she said. She took great joy in telling everybody how much, and I never did anything to make her, to make her think that I didn't like her. Nothing like that. I would have spent hours with this person to try to help them, because when I texted the host, I said, I actually heard everything she said. I said, you know what? I don't want her money. I'm going to give her money back to her because I don't want it. Mm-hmm. I found out, she goes, oh, I was sorry. She was drinking a little bit, and she just lost her mother. Now, let me rewind a second. And I have this on video.
And in fact, hold on one second. Let me take my break right here. We're going to come right back. Hold that thought. Okay, hang on.
Hi, everybody. Do you love everything paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise spiritual?
Well, of course you do. You're listening to Paranormal Karen.
If you like some humor sprinkled into your morning commute or wherever you listen to your podcast, we don't judge. We've got the most fantastic paranormal podcast for you.
I'm Dana.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Megan. We'd love for you to join us at Supernormal on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast fix.
Trust us, it's weird, it's wild, and a whole lot of fun.
I'm not weird, you're weird.
Okay, so go ahead. So this bitchy woman and her mother had just died. Go ahead.
Her mother had just, the woman texted me and she said, because the first thing that I said was, because I meditated, for a good half an hour before I connected with these women, because it was late at night. It was 9:30 at night. And I meditated and I just got all these images just coming through my mind, but I felt this ache in my chest and I just heard, oh, Mom. That's what I heard. And I felt like somebody had just lost their mother. So that's what I opened with. I said, I really get a very strong feeling that somebody just lost their mother. Silence from that woman, nothing. So the other two women who I was looking directly at, because we were doing it over the phone through Zoom, they immediately chimed in. They said, yes, we lost our mother, but they didn't just lose their mother. There's a difference. So, and then I was like, I would have spent hours trying to help her, but I learned from this when I did reach out to other spiritual people, because I was a little upset. Like I didn't think anyone, would ever do that. But then
intentionally mean. Yes.
She wasn't ready yet. She just lost her mother. She wasn't ready because she was probably angry because I was able to give such very fine, detailed information about the other two women that I had been reading for that also lost their mother. She was probably a little upset at that, but also hearing from me about her mother on the other side would make her mother's death very real. Mm-hmm. And that's part of a grieving process that I can't interfere with as a medium. So now I learned that if someone just lost someone, I cannot read for them. It's not that I can't. I can, but I probably shouldn't. Yes. Because they're not going to listen to anything that I really have to say.
Well, that's another thing too. Like gift certificates can be very tricky because it can be somebody that's a client that's going, he doesn't believe, I'm going to get him a reading with Karen so he can see. And then you're, I still remember this reading, and it was a gift certificate for a woman. I can still hear her voice. She was so, she kept going, I pray to God and I get messages. And no matter what I read for her, she was like, no, I talk to God. And she thought she was just, anybody that thinks they're the complete love and light and nothing else, I have nothing for you. If you're not in touch with your shadow side, she just thought she was so angelic. And I don't even know what I ended up telling her, and she just wanted to be better than me so much and couldn't handle anything even remotely like, did you feel bad? I never feel bad. If I feel bad, I pray to God. It was just, I can still hear her voice.
And that's a show. I mean, I've had people where nothing's wrong, everything's perfect, but when they close themselves off, because they just want to test you, they want to see what you're going to get. Spirit can only show me images in my mind as to what's available in my brain. So anything and that's why the messages during the day are very important, because if I don't have that specific image or language within me or name or whatever, they're going to give it to me early so that they can draw on it again, so that they can say, hey, this is what's going on. I mean, some of the information that I've gotten has saved lives. Some information that I've gotten about a sickness or an illness, and I'm not a person, don't come to me if you have, I'm not a doctor. Like it's very certain, like there's only certain people that I'm able to do that for, but I can certainly try to lead you in the right direction. But believe me, I will try because I work very hard to try to help people here to get those messages from that. So if somebody is not open to receiving, then let me ask you a question. If you're not open to receiving a conversation from another loving soul that we're all a part of, what makes you think you're open to receiving messages from God? Mm-hmm. I'd love to ask her that.
Yeah. I think that, I hate to say it, but there are just some people I don't know what that defense mechanism is where they have to be nasty like that. Because I don't think I've ever said to anyone, she hated me and I loved it. Like that doesn't even.
She said it with her chest, Karen.
I wouldn't even say that to Ben Shapiro.
Oh my gosh. I mean, she took such great joy Because she also wanted to, because I'm sure that her friends with good intentions were probably like, all right, she just lost her mom. I know Kristen's a good medium. Let's get her an appointment. She was probably upset. She probably wouldn't have done it on her own. They were probably within their best intentions trying to help their friend, not realizing that she's not ready to hear it. Because when somebody loses a parent or a husband or a child, they're the only ones in the world that are experiencing that loss. And it can feel that way. And they have a right to feel that way. And I understand. I lost my father. And I still, even though I'm a medium, I know when my father's around me, but all I get from him is a massive craving for peanut butter. I don't get that hug. I don't get that, hey, Dad, can you come to my house and like sit with me physically and where I can smell you or touch you and it bothers me so much. But however, if I ask my dad, hey, Dad, I just clogged up the bathroom and I don't want to call my landlord. Is there any way you could tell me how to fix this? Or, hey, Dad, there's something wrong with my car. Like one time my car was making this really weird noise in the back. And I was like, oh, God, it's going to cost me like thousands of dollars to get fixed. And my father literally said to me, look underneath the wheel well. And I looked and sure enough, there was a stick stuck in there. And that in the noise. And I said, thanks, Daddy. So always, you know what I mean? Always. I know that I can, and it's part when you accept the death and you learn to get through that grief. And when you learn to get symbols and signs from your loved ones on the other side, it's not the same, but it's something. And it's the thing that keeps you together so that when you cross over one day, you'll still be connected to them and it'll be easier. And we all communicate energetically. We do it in our sleep. We all communicate telepathically. We all have that ability. And that's the one thing that they didn't, the church, the government, whatever you want to call it, didn't want us to really focus on.
Yep.
Because as a powerful society, we could do so much. But as a controlled society, we could do very little. And,
Yeah. It's funny, my gut, though, when you say that woman, there was something else there, which was either a jealousy or like you don't get to know me without my permission. There was,
exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have secrets. My friend told me not to tell men that you work as a psychic because they won't want to date you because they'll think you can see their shame.
I mean, we could definitely see the size of their, I mean, that's what they really think. I have had women tell me, oh, my husband said I'm silly for going to a psychic because, we could just look them up on the internet or, you know what I mean? Like we could look you up on the internet or we could just, we could just tell you anything. And I'm like, of course a man would say that because most men, I'm not throwing shade on men, but a lot of men do lie a lot.
Mm-hmm. I'll throw that shade.
Who they really are. Right. They're hiding who they really are. They've put this wall up and they don't want people to know their feelings or their thoughts or what they care about or whatever it is. And they act like, listen, everybody, come on, be a little bit vulnerable here. I mean, I've had a lot of men, come to me and open up and men are very curious, but they're also very, I want to know this very specific detail. I want to know the very specific and they want to try to control it. Because they don't want you to get to those feelings that they've done such a good job of hiding their whole life.
Yeah, which is the patriarchy ruining men.
Right.
I remember sitting at the Comedy and Magic Club in the green room, and I was listening to a comic who liked heavier women, but I could not believe I heard him say this. He says to the other comic, he shows a picture and he goes, but do you think she's too heavy? And I thought, did you just ask someone else what you like or what you should like? Like if you like, and I think, I'm not sure, but I think the girl heard and she was gorgeous. And I was like, you just blew it because anyways, that's a whole nother story. So,
but you're right. But it's right. Because men often go with what's safe, what's not questionable. This is, and they don't go for the real person that they wanted to be with or that they liked. And it's unnerving for them if their wife goes to a psychic because they think the psychic is going to turn around and say, oh, well, your wife is still in love with Stacy from high school, right?
Yeah.
Just married you because, he liked the way you licked the cream off an Oreo. You know what I mean? Like that's not for us to do that. Any psychic that practices that way or tells people that they have a dark shadow over them and you have to spend $800 on a candle to lift that shadow, or anyone that's sitting there telling someone, oh yeah, they're definitely cheating on you, they're definitely doing this stuff, and no, this is not daytime soap opera. Spirit does not think it that way.
So tell us about the word femedian.
Comedian, divine comedian. I gave when I first came out. I had already been working in the comedy world, and I wanted to combine a comedy show with psychic readings, mediumship readings, and just to do gallery readings. I thought it would be funny. It was to me at least. And my 40th birthday, I always did a comedy show for my birthday. And I was like, what am I going to title the show? Because it's just me for once. It's not a whole bunch of comics. And I heard the word divine femedian, which means divine feminine medium comedian.
I love that.
Thank you. And I was like, this is perfect. Like this. And then I just remember feeling such a great pride and joy in myself when I had that name. I could give it a name. And I could go with that, and I felt very comfortable. So I just started doing like divine femedian, and then I had a bunch of comics open for me, and and then I would come out and do the gallery readings. And now I just I'm still a divine femedian. When you see me out there doing my readings and stuff, I'm the divine femedian. And then I also have a comedy duo that I do with another psychic medium comedian called Ghost and Giggles.
And folks, hopefully, if it works, Kristen and I will be doing a show together. We're looking at logistics, but keep your eyes and ears open, especially if you're in New York City. I'm just saying. And that's another reason to always go back to my website. So now, give us in the last 5 minutes the rundown. People can get get readings from you. They can tell all the things that are on your beautiful website, which by the way it is.
Thank you very much. And I know how to, I taught myself how to update it. I mean, I'm sure there was an IT guy on the other side helping. So yeah, you can go to my website. I actually put in, because femedian is kind of hard to spell, and most people get feminine, divine feminine. So I'm sure whoever has divinefeminine.com for readings is more than happy. But you can go to my name, KristenTinsley.com. It will redirect you to Divine Femedian, and you can book a reading there. You could also go to my events tab, where you could see where all my shows and public appearances and psychic fairs and any place where I will be. You could just click on the links and get tickets right however they're selling the tickets. And my book, the journal, Messages from Spirit, a Psychic Medium's Journal, is also up on my website. You could just click it, but it's sold through Amazon. But I actually do have a lot of copies, so I'm willing to give away 3 of these for free. So if you get in touch with me, I will give you 3 of them away. And Karen, I would love to send you one.
Oh, I'd love it.
So you can see it. Yeah, it's actually, I've actually put it in some stores, like metaphysical stores. I have a soul cave up the street that, she said that I could put it in there on consignment. I'm going to be teaching my class, Messages from Spirit, in there, teaching people how to follow these signs and symbols and how to ask and all this stuff. So I'm very excited. I have a lot going on, plus more public speaking events. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I'm writing a book called My 600-Pound Afterlife.
You're a holistic nutritionist?
I am. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I am also certified in weight management, weightlifting for fat loss, and I do not look like a Barbie doll. I am not a size 2, honey. I am a size 18. I know
a healthy 18.
A healthy 18, exactly, because you don't always get the body that you see on the TV screen.
No, and that's not the healthy body for everybody.
No, and I've been through a lot. I had weight loss surgery. I've used weight loss medication, but that's not the reason why I lost the weight. The reason why I lost the weight is because when I stood in the hospital and found out that I was 600 pounds, God said to me, I don't care if you look good in a bikini. I want you on your life path, and you're on the wrong right path. This is why your weight got this way. We've been trying to contact you. Maybe it wasn't the best way through all those Ben and Jerry's and Little Debbie snack cakes. But now we're gonna put you on more of a healthier path. And I did. I lost the weight, and I feel a lot better. And now I teach people how to rewrite those stories, let go of those attachments, make agreements with the other side, because the other side can influence the foods that we eat.
Yes, and you have 3 books out, which is great. And also, I hope this is an appropriate thing to say. Your prices are very good. I don't like having on people that are like $1,000 an hour. Like my people are not. You're very perfectly in the zone, my friend.
Yes, and I like that. And somebody actually called me up with the coaching, and they were like, "Well, the coaching, because I'm a spiritual life coach, also many things, because that's spiritual life coach is the undercover name for psychic medium, depending on who you talk." I always carry around my ordained minister card as well, just to make sure that if anyone wants to question me, I have high. So, the prices, listen, because you get so much more out of helping people. And, it's the same thing as someone charging $500 for a haircut. Listen, I worked in the hair industry for 10 years. I know that there's no difference between a $500 haircut and a $50 haircut. Somebody who's cutting hair for $50 can be just as good as somebody who's charging $500. It doesn't even matter.
And I like my clients. I like the clientele that my prices attract.
Exactly, because you attract the people who need you the most. If somebody's coming in and they may pay you $500 for a reading, and then just say, "Well, I don't need help with money," or "I don't need help." It just depends on the type of help you're offering. That's why I'm a medium by design. Everything that I learn and everything that I know about, whether it be life coaching, holistic nutrition, weightlifting, getting in touch with spirit to figure out what you need to let go of, what you need to rewrite, how to follow the moon, whatever it is, because I'm a Sag. I like to study these things. I like to be a full, resource for people. So whatever you study, whatever it is, you're going to draw in the people that need you. When I ask and I say, "Listen, send me the people who I can help," you wouldn't believe who they send me.
I am still toying. I don't know, because I'm not a good student, but if I decide to, I want to do iridology, and
What's that?
That's the study of the iris of the eye, that the iris of the eye is connected to everything. So you can tell by taking you get a little special camera, you take pictures of someone's eye. You can see where their malnutrition, you can see where what organs are off. And, but I always think I would have to know, like, a nutritionist of some sort. I know a lot of them, but because you're not supposed to, unless I became a nutritionist, which I don't think I could do because I'm not interested.
I can tell you the exact path, like when we're done, on how you can become that without having to, because I'm a certified holistic nutrition. They do offer holistic nutrition in a college someplace. I don't know where. But when I looked at that, I was like, I'm like, that doesn't sound like something, because it's not really 100% holistic nutrition. It's more of standard nutrition mixed with like a couple of spiritual things.
Oh, okay.
Right. But I took mine through the American Fitness Professionals Association. I've took a lot of my certifications through them. And I love, because it's self-paced. You could do it on your own. You don't have to show up to a classroom. You take a test at the end. It gives you plenty of information about holistic nutrition, because holistic nutrition is meant to nutritionalize the entire body, mind, body, and soul. That's what it means.
Okay, and that's where you go. I think I had something with them years ago where I was going to become a weight trainer. American Fitness, what was the last word?
It's AFPA, American Fitness Professional Association.
Okay, great.
I recommend that for anybody, because I went to the World Health Organization where they did like a lot of meetings. They did a lot of, talks, and all of the professors, the professors who wrote the book that I studied were all there. So I actually got to speak to them and say, "Hey, I took this course and I just wanted to ask you a question about this or ask a question about that. And they were able to answer me. They were able to say, okay, you had bariatric surgery. You can't eat vegetables and fruits and this and that. So I recommend that you juice them. And I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't think to do that because when you have bariatric surgery, they tell you don't drink juice because it's all sugar, but I still need to get those nutrients in my body. You know what I mean? So I do, and I don't see a lot of bariatric aimed courses out there. So I am looking to hopefully design one and present to them. I'm hoping my 600-pound afterlife, well, probably not, because they're going to be like, oh, Spirit made you eat those cupcakes? Like, yeah, right.
And one last thing. We're already way over, but I have to ask, create your own superhero comic book? What is that?
Yes, create your own superhero comic book. I designed that for children so that they could learn, because I went to school for creative writing, so that they could learn how to construct a story. So this follows the hero's journey, which is the same for tarot. If you think about it, it's undercover tarot, right? The fool, right? The fool's journey and all of that would be for that. I also use that for people who are looking to be entrepreneurs so they could get straight on how they're going to design their story. Because I feel like creative writing is a lot of fun. And when you have fun with your ideas, they come in a lot easier as opposed to, all right, sit down and write your wants and your whys. No, let's write a story. Let's go on an adventure, because that's what life is. Life is an adventure. And I'm a creative person. And that's why I created that, to give kids and young adults, whoever wants one, a chance to actually bring their vision to life. That's why I did.
That is fantastic. All right, Kristen Tinsley, ladies and gentlemen, the website and everything is in the show notes, or you can look up Divine Femedian. And this has been delightful. Book a reading, buy a book. You are wonderful, my friend.
Thank you so much, Karen. You're wonderful as well. I'm so happy to have met you.
You should be doing a podcast. You're a great speaker.
Oh, I've done many. I have. I've done In Bed with Comics, but I am going to be starting a new podcast called The Sagittarius. You'll see.
Awesome.
It'll be out.
Awesome. Everybody get on her email list and hopefully come see us in New York.
Oh, yeah, I will.
All right, everybody. I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. And everybody have a great day.
Paranormal Karen. She's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen. Comedian, ghost hunter, conscious exploring. She's a funny gal and a real woo pal. She's Paranormal Karen.